In today's video, I will be ranking the top 10 best defensive teams in the NBA, but before we start, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Without further ado, let's get started. And will make life difficult for any players he's defending. OG, Pascal, and Scotty Barnes are Nick Nurse's ideal type of defenders, long, tall, and capable of defending multiple positions. And with them all improving each year, they'll be on this for many years to come. Number 8. The Minnesota Timberwolves recently traded for arguably the best defender in the NBA in Rudy Gobert. Even though they lost quality defenders Patrick Beverley and Jared Vanderbilt, the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year can more than make up for their loss. Last season, they were ranked 13th in defensive rating, 3rd in blocks per game, and 3rd in steals per game. They had a pretty good defense, but Rudy certainly will put them over the top on the defensive end of the court. A lesser-known defender, Jaden McDaniels, has quietly been one of the best defenders for at least a couple seasons now. At 6'9", he's an extremely skilled shot blocker and a perimeter defender. He can guard 3 to 4 positions with great tenacity and IQ, making him and Rudy a great fit together. The Timberwolves recently signed Kyle Anderson to a 2-year, $18 million deal. The 6'9" forward gives them another big body they can throw at great scorers. Number 7. The Milwaukee Bucks defense has dropped off quite a bit from recent years. In the 2019 season, they ranked number 1 in defensive rating, and for the 2020 season, they were ranked 9th. Last season, they dropped all the way down to 14th in defensive rating. Even with that being said, the Bucks still have 2 of the top 10 defenders in their roster in Drew Holiday and the Greek Freak. It's also important to note that for the majority of last season, they were missing their primary rim protector, Brook Lopez. He's an elite shot blocker who can impact an entire game on his defense alone. Lopez has averaged over 2 blocks per game 3 times in his 14-year-long career. Giannis is still at the peak of defensive prime. He ranked 3rd in defensive box plus minus and was top 10 in defensive rating. Bucks coach Mike Budenholzer really prioritizes defense and expects nothing less than 100% effort all game long. Number 6. The Phoenix Suns were one of the best defensive teams in the league last season. Monty Williams did a great job at getting the best out of his players, especially Devin Booker. Just like many top scorers in the NBA, defense was Booker's biggest concern. He showed a huge increase in energy and tenacity when defending out on the perimeter. Booker played with serious edge and physicality, which surely rubbed off on his teammates. Last season, the Suns ranked 3rd in defensive rating, 6th in steals, and 8th in points allowed in the paint. Their star point guard, Chris Paul, finished 2nd in steals per game and had the 2nd best defensive rating at his position. Now, I know he isn't the same defender as previous years, but he hasn't lost the ability to poke balls free and force turnovers. Defensive Player of the Year candidate Mikal Bridges serves as the Suns' best defensive stopper. He has many great defensive performances against players like Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and even Stephen Curry. The scary thing is he's only 26 years old, which means he'll be locking down players for the next decade. All in all, players like Jay Crowder, Torrey Craig, and even Cameron Johnson play amazing team defense under coach Monty Williams. With Paul and Bridges keeping the defense steady, Phoenix will definitely be back at the top of the Western Conference. Number 5. The Los Angeles Clippers are expected to get back a healthy Kawhi Leonard and Paul George this season. Although many fans say Leonard's defense is slowly regressing, at worst, he's still a top 15 defender in the NBA. Paul George led the NBA in steals just a few seasons ago, and he's still more than capable of doing it again. Despite Leonard and George's injury history, they are still young and they have a lot left in their tanks. Even without their stars, the Clippers proved to be one of the best defensive teams in the league. They ranked 8th in defensive rating and 8th in blocks per game. Clippers coach Ty Lue also did a phenomenal job at making adjustments and getting his best defensive players in position to succeed. Players like Robert Covington and Norman Powell are exceptional team defenders and will mash with George and Leonard immediately. Covington has not only been one of the best off-ball defenders in the NBA, but he's extremely versatile and can still guard multiple positions. Add that with Powell's high energy and motor, and Terrence Mann's knack for making defensive plays, and you've got a really good defense. And I didn't even mention Marcus Morris Sr. yet. He's one of those tough defenders who will give it all they got with no questions asked. The Clippers will be a tough team all around, but their defense will carry them very far. Number 4, the Miami Heat ranked 4th in defensive rating last season, and 1st in points allowed in the paint. If you're an NBA fan, then you aren't surprised I have them this high on my list. They also have 2 of the top 10 defenders on their team in Bam and Jimmy Butler. Butler hasn't lost a single step on the defensive end and continues to be the Heat's primary lockdown defender. Bam was runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year at age 25. It's safe to say he'll have plenty of opportunities to win it. Bam only played 56 games last season due to injury, but I wouldn't be that worried if I were a Heat fan because he's usually always relatively healthy. Kyle Lowry, Victor, and even Gabe Vincent were all huge factors in making the Heat's defense complete. Vincent brought great hustle, Victor played lockdown defense on the perimeter, and Kyle Lowry did what he's always done, and that's compete. Miami recently lost PJ Tucker, and he was a vital player for their defense, and will certainly be missed, but even with him gone, the Heat are still dangerous defense to go against. Number 3, the Golden State Warriors caused havoc on the defensive end last season. They ranked 2nd in defensive rating, 4th in steals, and 5th in points allowed in the paint. Green, Wiggins, and Looney are all returning this season and look to continue to disrupt opposing teams. Andrew Wiggins played amazing on the defensive end, especially guarding Jason Tatum and other stars. With Klay Thompson being a shell of himself on defense, Wiggins became their primary defensive stopper. Wiggins alongside Green almost looked like a match made in heaven. Green was number 1 in defensive rating before his injury, and without a doubt would have been in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Although the Warriors lost Gary Payton II, they replaced him pretty quickly with yet another really good defender. Dante DiVincenzo isn't the on-ball defender Payton is, but he brings a lot of the same qualities. Dante has great anticipation and will be using the same threat Payton was in the passing lanes. Curry was also a bright spot for the Warriors defense, believe it or not. He improved so much as a perimeter defender and no longer shied away from talented offensive players. With the greatest shooter of all time playing great defense, I hope it's obvious why they are so high on my list. Number 2, the Memphis Grizzlies ranked 6th in defensive rating last season while also leading the league in both steals and blocks. The Grizzlies are a very energetic and athletic team. The intensity they play with is phenomenal. Jaren Jackson Jr. is one of the best rim protectors in the NBA, averaging over 2 blocks per game. He isn't just your traditional shot blocker though. Jackson is very nimble and moves well for his size, making him a versatile defensive threat. Brooks and Brandon Clark are both 2 young Bulldog defenders, and were arguably the 2 most physical defenders on the roster. Brooks was excellent out on the perimeter, and Clark showed the potential to be a solid all-around defender. The Grizzlies added NBA veteran Danny Green this offseason, and honestly, that was a great move. Even though he's getting older, he will bring much-needed experience and defense to a team in a win-now mode. All in all, the Grizzlies have the coaching and defensive firepower to make a lot of noise this season. Number 1, the Boston Celtics are the most versatile defensive team in the NBA. Any lineup they choose to put on the floor will have at least 1 or possibly 2 Defensive Player of the Year candidates. Last season, they ranked 1st in defensive rating and 2nd in points allowed in the paint. They're also the home of former Defensive Player of the Year winner Marcus Smart. What makes their defense so lethal is that they have 5 of the top 25 defenders on one roster, which is insane once you say it out loud. Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, Big Al, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown on the same team is a defensive-minded coach's dream. Even with them all being under the age of 30, minus Big Al, it makes them dangerous for at least another 5 to 6 years. All in all, the Boston Celtics have the potential to make another finals appearance, and with their strong defense, they'll probably be in many more. Did you enjoy the video? If so, hit the like button and subscribe to NBA Swish for more amazing NBA content like this. Take care, and I hope to see you in the next one.